Every tray we grow ends up in this compost trailer at the end of its life. Our soil is single use, one cut, and it's done. Just like everything else in our operation, it costs money to get rid of this soil. It costs us both in labor to pay our team to do the composting, as well as a service fee to a compost provider to haul it away and bring us a fresh trailer. Today I'm going to show you how we compost at my farm, Piedmont Microgreens. We'll talk a little bit about the history of how we've managed to get rid of our compost over the years. And then at the end of the video, we'll break down the cost to compost and what it costs us historically and how we've managed to bring that cost down over time.
Let's go!
The first thing you'll notice is that we're in this industrial complex, which means we don't just have an abundance of land to just throw it out and hope it reintegrates with the natural environment. Because we don't have land, we also can't use it for some sort of secondary purpose, like hilling up raised garden beds for a market garden. All this means is we need a dedicated and predictable way of getting rid of this soil at the end of every week, which is why over the years we've partnered with various compost providers to give us these trailers. The other thing you'll notice is we put these 2x4s across the trailer to give us some sort of structure or framework to put the trays on while we compost, to give us something to bang the trays against to get the compost out of the trays, and to just be able to organize the trays as we move through the compost piles. But back in the day when I first started the business and I was living in a rental, I built this raised garden box and put all the soil in it and then planted some tomatoes and left it when I moved out. I did the same thing when I bought my house and moved the business into the garage. I began piling up all of the compost on the periphery of my property and eventually built raised garden beds around them. Of course, I eventually ran out of space and had to find a new solution, which led me to Compost Now. We began renting these 65-gallon roll-away garbage bins, and we were putting the soil in that, and they would pick up from my house every week. That worked for the next 1 or 2 years, and we got more and more bins as we scaled up production, but eventually it became too costly. That led us to GFL, Green for Life, which is a large waste management company with a composting branch, and we started renting 20-yard dumpsters like this. This was a huge cost savings, but they took up a lot more space than the garbage bins, and the main problem is that the Department of Transportation regulates how much weight you can put in these, so we had to take data to figure out the average weight of the compost residue from each tray, and then track how many trays we were putting into each dumpster so that we wouldn't go over the DOT limit. They also didn't have good drainage, which meant if it rained, all that soil would soak up the water and increase that weight by a ton. So we ended up covering it with a tarp, which led us to getting those 2x4s to support the tarp when it did fill with water. Total pain in the ass. Eventually, we got reconnected with an old friend, a local composting company that has a farm as well. For some reason, we didn't connect the dots in the past, and that enabled us to start renting these trailers from them, which now feeds into their composting operation here in Durham, which is nice to keep that soil local. Anyway, once we're done composting all of the residue, we separate the trays so that all the top trays and all the bottom trays are together. Then we put all the dirty trays in our shed, and we do this after each harvest, and then once a week, all those dirty trays get cleaned. And as soon as you get a little bit bigger, I highly recommend getting a convertible dolly like this. It's great that it folds up to save space when it's not in use. It's great for moving a large volume of trays that are cut and need to be composted. It's great at transporting dirty trays. Even trays that are coming out of germination, we can transport large stacks from our germination area out to their respective rack. We used to actually leave all of our dirty trays out on this side table we have behind the shed, but given the fact that this shed was robbed twice, we've now installed security cameras and we now store these trays inside the shed. Now that I've shown you how we do the actual composting and a little bit about the history of the different services we've used to compost over the years, we can talk about the financials. This breaks down into 2 components: the actual cost to pay my team to do the composting after we've done harvest, as well as the service fees we pay the composting company to haul the compost away and actually deal with the material. We'll start with the oldest version and move to the newest, which goes from the most expensive to the least expensive. Obviously, we don't really need to talk about the very, very first way in which we composted, which was throwing the soil away on site into raised garden beds. That was free, but that was for a very limited amount of time. I'll add that for all these scenarios, regardless of when we use that composting service, we will assume, to make it fair, that we are doing 400 trays per week for each of the services. After that, we got started with Compost Now, and Compost Now has always charged us $65 per bin per month, but they would haul those bins every week. So it actually took up far less space than the other 2 options we'll talk about, but they were the most expensive. We had to use 8 bins because each bin could only hold 50 trays. They could technically hold more, but there was a weight limit because they had to be rolled onto a lift gate and into a truck, so they had to be maneuverable by a person. We couldn't load them up with hundreds of pounds of soil. With 8 bins at $65 each, that was $520 per month. At 1,600 trays per month, 400 trays per week, that comes out to 33 cents per tray for the hauling fees. After that, we switched to the 20-yard dumpster from GFL, Green for Life. That 20-yard dumpster was so big, we only needed it to get hauled once every 3 months, but they would still charge us $90 per month just to have it on site to be using the dumpster. So if we got it hauled every 3 months, it was $90, $90, $90 for each of the 3 months. and then $300 for the actual haul, which meant every 3 months we were paying $570. So at an average of $190 per month with 1,600 trays per month, that comes out to just 12 cents per tray in hauling fees. And now what we use today, which is a local company, New Soil Vermiculture. They're a great local business that does composting, worm composting, and they have a farm on site. We met them a long time ago, and it was only recently that we reconnected and realized that we would be a great source of providing raw inputs for their composting operation. So they only charge us $60 a month. For a trailer like this, they have 2 trailers that they alternate between. At $60 a month, that's just 4 cents per tray. Now on the labor side, just like with the other videos, we want to look at this from the perspective of both employees, both pay rates that we have, which are $18 an hour for a farm assistant and $25 an hour for a farm manager. Although I neglected to get true data on this past week in preparation for this video, I can confidently say it takes us about 3 hours across all the days that we harvest those 400 trays each week to do all the composting. 400 trays across 3 hours is 134 trays per hour. At $25 an hour for pay, that makes it 19 cents per tray to pay a farm manager or 14 cents per tray to pay a farm assistant. In total, that gives us fees ranging from, over the lifetime of the business, 33 cents down to 4 cents per tray, and pay per tray from 14 to 19 cents. So together, worst case scenario, paying a farm assistant and using the oldest, most expensive method through Compost Now means that we were paying 52 cents per tray total, all the way down to the best case, which is paying a farm assistant on our current method with this trailer at only 18 cents total per tray. So anywhere from 18 cents to 52 cents a tray is what we pay to compost each tray at my farm. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. And if you're looking to start a microgreen farm, or you're already in the midst of it looking to scale, go check out Microgreen Manager. It's something my brother and I built specifically for microgreen farmers to handle all of the crop planning and order management. And every day, with every new feature, it is becoming a full farm management tool. You get a 30-day free trial, no credit card required.